Hey everybody, welcome back to Frank About Health as I'm being frank about cancer. Overall, I've just given a general overview of cancer, its causes, some statistics about mortality rates, second leading cause of death in the U.S., however, 22 states. It's the first leading cause. I've gone overview about breast cancer, brain cancer, prostate cancer, and so forth and so on. But now I think it's best to go into alternative treatments. Essentially, I'm going to go into a personal story. My own father. He had prostate cancer about 2.5, 3 years ago. It was already understood to be in its growth stage because what most men have to do when they get into their 40s and 50s is what they call a PSA. I think that's I think it's that kind of prostate test where they test the levels if you're from a 0 to a 4.0 or something like that, and then if you're at 4.0 and higher, the idea of prostate cancer is pretty significant. Well, he was reaching his 80s and he had his PSA done, and it showed that it went from 1.2 to 4.5 in a matter of a few months. Now, what that did, of course, was alarm my whole family, including myself. And while he was able to understand that there were options, especially a man of his years, to freeze the tumor through cryogenics, as well as to eventually either remove a portion of the tumor, he decided to do the cryogenic route. And it worked. It worked for about 6 months. Now, what did that do to his PSA score? It reduced it from 4.5 to 1.2. However, it went to 3.0 within 3 months after that. So what he was able to then do was stop taking all the foods that were not good for him. Stopped eating sugar. Stopped drinking. Stopped taking alcohol. Stopped like rum. Rum was his favorite. Stopped eating chocolate. He basically went the route of eating a lot of greens. Essentially, my mother, who is in my own view, a nutrition freak, essentially made sure that every day and night he was having salads and he was going for smoothies made of fruit and vegetables, depending upon his mood. And what we discovered is that when he went back in to have part of the tumor removed, he also started taking on acupuncture as well as drinking a lot of things like ginger root. And my mother, who is a great cook, also used a lot of different spices like ginger, as well as some others, which I'll mention later. The thing is that as a result of that treatment, he has been in remission for about a year now, and his PSA score is below 1.0. Now, that to me is interesting because I know that most healthy males are at least 1.0. It's just that when you get in your older years, it can increase. Overall, what I discovered, in my own opinion, really, is that even though he was going through prostate cancer in the traditional means of treatment, the alternative route that my mother and a little bit of my own influence indicated he should do actually improved his quality of life significantly. Now, although I must admit he's taken sugar again, I find him still minimizing the amount he takes. Or, for example, while he's gone back to dark chocolate, he hasn't had rum or any alcohol in the last 5 years. Now, I also can say that my own experience with acupuncture actually determines how to, minimize the appetite, especially if it's stress-induced. So the person that he sees essentially has put pressure points in areas where he no longer has an appetite when not needed. In other words, he'll have his 3 meals a day, but he's only going to have it when he's hungry and not when he's just craving it. Because at the same time, the goal of that treatment is to prevent the cancer from coming back. Now, it is not foolproof that acupuncture or certain visualization is completely preventative of cancer. It does show significant results in its treatment, and I could say that many people that I know who have engaged in this kind of treatment are pretty much happier and at the same time feel complete while they continue to do other kinds of treatment that their doctors have told them in the past. So it's more holistic in the way that they've taken care of it. Now, I would say from my understanding of the people in my life who've died of cancer that these treatments are most effective in those with immediate cancers, like in the lungs or in the kidneys or in the liver, things like that. What is still yet to be tried and true is those cancers like leukemia and brain cancer and pancreatic cancer and colorectal cancer, which in most cases today still has a high mortality rate. The thing that I want everyone out there to take from all this, though, regardless of the type of cancer you have, is that make sure that you go out there and look into acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, yoga, meditation, herbal teas, green tea, white tea. At the same time, the spice that I was thinking about was turmeric. Now, I am not a cook myself, but I know people who know really how to cook in many different ways. And I've seen ingredients like turmeric and ginger and thyme and basil and all of these things that I've only grown up on having the last few years myself, trying to do what I can to prevent certain other disorders. But the thing is I can say that when I've seen and also experienced those type of special ingredients in my nutrition, I feel energetic. I feel much more focused. I also feel more aware of whenever something is not feeling right, I get tested right away to see what it might be. And I've been fortunate to find that the only thing that I might still be experiencing are the symptoms of living with epilepsy. Now, I did mention earlier about how epilepsy has a comorbidity with cancer in terms of the brain and even the liver, but diabetes in itself is a focus for me because I want to understand how the whole process of sugar intake can actually affect metastasis in particular areas in the lower regions of the body. Now, I mentioned earlier about pancreatic cancer, which is, depending upon who you are, it's not really something that is totally understandable. But the fact that diabetes can link to pancreatic cancer just tells me one simple fact. It's for those of you who have to take insulin repeatedly are probably going to unfortunately have a comorbidity with your pancreas because it's doing a lot more work than it would have been doing unless you obviously continue to take your insulin. Now, that also tells me that while I've spoken on this episode about cancer, this is just one aspect of the whole human body that when you're taking care of one disease, make sure you're realizing you're taking care of another or even another. As I've repeatedly said, and as you probably know from my background, I started with epilepsy, but I can say I've gone from epilepsy to diabetes, to cancer, to heart disease, to concerns about, the prostate and male functioning, but it's only because there is one link to the other. Nothing is unique and separate. It is all something that you have to keep a complete profile to maintain your quality of life and your focus and making sure that any kind of possible diseases that come into your life in the future are prevented at the highest rate possible. I was speaking to a few friends of mine recently about specific leafy vegetables that you can continue to take while you're on your own road to preventing any disorders, including cancer. And kale and spinach come to mind. I know I'm a spinach freak myself. There's all the ingredients in there that allow the iodine and other kinds of strength and enzymes and antioxidants to help you prevent any kind of abnormal cell growth, or even keep your energy flowing. But kale, to me, I got to be honest with you, kale is a new thing for me. I've only started having kale within my salads and within my drinks over the last 6 months. But the more I get used to it, the more I can see differences in my metabolism. So, and in my feeling as well about things. So I would recommend that if you don't like your kale salad, make it into a smoothie. I was talking to another friend of mine recently about vegetable smoothies, which I've seen in many different places, like if you're out there, Gray's Papaya, or even Juice Generation, which is located in Manhattan in the 70s. The thing is that I myself have never done it. I've done it once, but after having done the research on this particular topic of cancer, you can bet that when I have my smoothies, they're either going to be a combination of fruit and vegetables or vegetables only, depending on my mood. So overall, I think that whenever anybody is trying to keep their quality of life intact, whether they have cancer or not, there should be the continued effort in making sure that when you have the proper nutrition or when you have the proper focus about how you're going to treat yourself with or without a doctor's assistance, that you take into consideration that nutrition is key. I personally love green tea. I've been drinking green tea since I was 4. No, let's just say 14. But the thing is that I've also engaged in white tea. A lot of people ask me, Frank, why don't you drink coffee? Well, I actually can't because of epilepsy. But the reality is I never found it to be anything but, bitter chocolate. That's what it tasted like to me. But even today, I only drink water or tea. I don't drink sodas. I don't drink juices even because there's a lot of sugar in them, like orange juice. But what I do drink outside of those two are smoothies because I can ask them not to put the yogurt or the banana, but to put the strawberries, the blueberries, the raspberries, all the antioxidant berries that also help me lose weight at the same time. Now that I've done research on cancer, among other disorders, I'm going to incorporate vegetable smoothies into my diet. I guess I'm just going to have to start that tomorrow. In the meantime, though, I would say that while we had people like Patrick Swayze, who was able to outlast his diagnosis by a couple years, he had done a lot of mindfulness treatments as well as continued to work as if he had nothing wrong. I think he even had a mini-series for a while prior to his death. But what it is not just about mindfulness, it is also about nutrition. Keep nutrition as priority 1. Then I would say priority 2, alternative treatments like acupuncture, visualization, yoga, meditation. I will then resort to the topic I had last week about healthcare and insurance. What is unfortunate about all of these wonderful treatments that are out there is that they are not covered by insurance. So I would say this is an investment in your quality of life, and like any investment, you should have yourself a budget so that you can make sure that the type of foods and vitamins, usually in the B category, by the way, but also any kind of doctors, like I've mentioned, acupuncture, body and brain, things like that. Make yourself a monthly budget and make sure that the investment in your QOL is at a high rate, just like your retirement account. Now, I think we're headed for another break in just a few, but what I'm going to do in the third segment of this show is I'm going to talk about some quotes that you should live with in your life to have a positive outlook going forward. And for those of you who are unfortunately going through cancer right now, my wishes are out there for you to just keep yourselves in a day-by-day mindfulness. Don't try not to be as depressed, but if you just keep yourself focused in the moment, you will find that living through this is possible. We'll be back in just a few. Ding 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 ding.